Hi, good morning. This
Good
is Tom
morning.
Burkhalter. I'm talking with Mary Karpin, and this is for Books Go Social. And Mary, hi, how are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Excellent.
How are you doing?
Oh, pretty well, pretty well. Even if I've got my assistant here with me. Um,
The angel's a good assistant.
yeah, she is. She's I don't know exactly why I'm her human, but it's very obvious I'm her human. She's not my cat.
I
So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. I'm not quite sure how long Zoom is going to let us go here. And you have written a series of historical detective novels, correct?
correct.
Okay, and that's the Nate Walker series.
The Nate Walker series.
Eh,
His full proper name, Nate Walker. I should explain a little bit about Nate Walker. He's James Nathaniel Walker, one of the Boston 400. He's a Boston Brahmin. And his backstory is first, he's an agoraphobic detective. When his first wife died, he was bereft because he was just bereft. He didn't know if it was the love of his life or not, so he was bereft. So she died of the Spanish flu.
hmm,
Now World War I was starting, so he figured to get over his grief, he'd go to war. That didn't work out too well. He came back with what we would now call PTSD, then called nerves disease. At any rate, he broke down. His family took care of him. He decided to start over in New York when he was better, more recovered. And that's where he starts being a detective.
okay, so is he's a private detective, correct?
He's private.
Okay. How did I'm not sure how that would work back in I would assume this is the 1920s.
1920, he first arrived in New York 1922. Basically, he just arrived and tried to find his own life again.
Hmm.
His people in the 400 would come to him and say, New York, say, I need, my maid did such and such. What was wrong with her? They would vent at him because he wouldn't leave his house. So they would go to him and he'd solve it.
Oh, so
Or,
he's sort of like Mycroft Holmes.
exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
And so he solves the problems basically of Boston's rich and perhaps not famous, but certainly
But Rich in the New York, same thing.
okay, okay. Well, that's intriguing. So how does he get involved in the New York nightclub scene at all?
Well, yes, eventually, but in the first book, basically, he's called upon because there was an incident on a cruise ship returning. Well, we call them cruise ships. Then it was just a
Mhm.
sailing ship that returned to New York from London, and there was an incident on the ship. So the rich fan from California hired a local detective, but the local detective was advised to go to him because of who he was advising. Long story short, he starts
Mhm.
becoming this detective, but he never really has a. Yeah, no. And he eventually remarries, which is also in the series, and now his second wife is pregnant. Anyway, yeah.
Well, how many books in the series so far?
The one went past his prologue, one went missing. Educated Corpse, Murder by Mistake, A Tangled Web came out yesterday. Five.
Okay.
Mm.
So how did you get the idea for Nate Walker? Did he just sort of spring into your consciousness one day and say, "Hi, Mary,
I'm
here I am,
here.
write about me."
Basically, I read a lot. Obviously, I've written since I was 11 in one form or another. Never
Hmm.
published anything because I was working. But all of a sudden, like Patricia Gitt, also at Books Go Social, she claims I wake up every week with two book ideas in my head.
Oh,
Not
that's
two,
good.
but I did wake up with the Nate Walker idea, and I just thought I'd just write the one book, sort of work it out. But as I
Hmm.
was writing the first book, it occurred to me he should be married by the third book. So all of a sudden, my brain is already giving me a longer arc.
Well, sure, one idea leads to another, and then you realize sometimes unintended consequences. Well, if he's done A, then he also has to do B, C, and D.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you use to research your settings? What's your favorite other than the internet? I would assume.
Other than the internet, well, you have to understand, I grew up in Manhattan.
Hmm.
Every Sunday, well, not every Sunday, but most Sundays, we'd go down to either Little Italy or Chinatown for Sunday dinner.
Oh, okay.
So we'd walk the streets. Now, I'm dating myself, but when you're in the 60s and 70s, Little Italy was full of original architecture from the 20s and the 1800s. So it wasn't a hard thing to remember where I was and what I did and where I did.
So urban renewal had not yet struck at that time.
No, no,
Well, it's not always a good thing.
no. Well, Little
Um,
Italy kept some of it, and so did Chinatown. In fact, Chinatown is now having a little fight where the
mhm,
city wants to close down one of the main streets for summer festival, and they're saying, no, it turns it into a 24-hour block party, and we're trying to sleep here, people.
mhm,
Yeah,
mm. We are trying to find a good Chinese restaurant here in Hickory, North Carolina, and there are some that are okay, but
yeah.
I would imagine you've got some of the best Chinese, well, outside of China, I guess.
Outside of Hong Kong and China,
Yeah,
which I can
yeah.
go to today, but that's a whole, we're not going there.
And some of the best pizza I ever had in my life was this little uh place in North Miami Beach. It was like six little tables, like something out of a movie, checkered cloths, and
Yes,
oh my,
yes.
and it was expat Italians who had come down, I think,
The
from New
food was
Jersey
good.
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's to me, that's important. You have to find a setting
Right,
and you have to use that. The setting is almost a character.
right. Because when I was writing the second book, I had them in a rooming house for the two girls, one of which
Yeah.
went missing, hence the title. So I literally went down to West Fourth Street in Manhattan and just walked around till I said, "That's it," and then I could go from there. Like you said, setting helps. Setting almost writes the book. And then I looked for a church because they were church going people in those days.
Hmm.
And there was a church 2 blocks away. Perfect. I put that church in the book. It all worked out.
Well, now I find the internet is a good source of old pictures,
Yes.
um, which I think are very helpful. Do you ever use anything like that?
Oh, yes, yes. Plus, my mother was she had a double degree in college. She graduated in 1947, but she was a history major, American history major,
Mhm.
with her second major was biology.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she wanted to be a lab tech, but she had enough coursework in history for them to grant her a second major. In
Hmm.
fact, she wrote her thesis on the Ku Klux Klan and
Oh
how
boy.
people they were in 1947.
Yeah.
Great. Moving back to me, so she always took me to the newsreels. There used to be a theater inside Grand Central Station. I don't know if you're aware of it. That was there until the 70s. And a lot of times they just showed old newsreels from the 30s and the
Oh.
40s.
Uh-huh.
So she'd come out, we're gonna go there. You know, you're 10, you get plopped in a theater with your mom. It's like, okay, we're watching a movie. So you see all these old things. It makes an impression whether you know it or not.
See, that's fascinating because I love just yesterday I was watching a short clip
Yeah.
from 1943,
Hmm.
and the bits and pieces that you can glean from stuff like that is the the way people talk,
Right.
and the things that you see in the background
And the way
almost as
people
much as,
dress.
yeah, yeah. Um,
And you brought up the jazz clubs.
mhm.
Okay, I don't know if you're a Star Trek fan or not, but in the next generation, there was a barkeeper named Guinan, played by
Right.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Hmm.
Okay. You know where they got the name from, Guinan?
Oh,
Guinan
don't
was
tell me.
the hostess of the Jazz Age in New York City. If you went
Oh,
to a Guinan party, you were in the in crowd.
ah.
So Guinan is in the book too.
Well,
In the
just so
books.
you know, I'm a major Trekkie,
Oh,
and
good.
if I could possibly have gone to Starfleet Academy, um, I'd have give John Luke and James T. Kirk a run for their money as youngest
Good.
captain in Starfleet.
Good. Good. Good.
But
I would have been there, but the communications officer.
Yeah, well, I had a somewhere I've got a cartoon from, remember the BC comic strip series?
Yes.
You remember he
They
had
find the thing on the side of the wall.
yeah, yeah. He had the psychiatrist, and BC is telling the psychiatrist, I have this overwhelming desire to be an astronaut. And the psychiatrist says, well, what's the problem? And BC says, I'm underwhelmed by our technology.
Yes. No, I remember the BC where the two of them are drawing on the cave
Yeah, yeah.
and they're drawing the Enterprise. And the little tagline is, "This'll blow their minds."
Well, I think that historical fiction and science fiction share a lot in common if they're both done properly. Because do you find that trying to get across what the period you're writing about was actually like from the point of view of the participants in the story requires you to adopt a certain mindset?
Absolutely. I mean, I was sitting in a Connecticut street waiting for somebody back-ended me, so I had to wait for the cops. Nobody was hurt. We just sort of, but she
Yeah.
didn't want to move until the cops came. So I said, so I'm texting my friend I was supposed to meet for lunch, and she's saying, "Well, just chill. When you get done, we'll arrange something." I said, "Okay, fine." Long story short, I'm deciding it's been 4 hours in the hot blazing sun. Maybe we'll do dinner. Maybe we'll do something after. There's a hotel across the street. I'll walk in, see if they have a room. And she said, "Get out of the 20s. You can text them. You can even make a reservation on your phone. Get out of the 20s."
Well, I guess daddy is no longer wanted.
I guess daddy's no longer wanted.
Well, it's
Mom used to sit on the keyboard. I'm like, "Hello, I'm trying to talk to this man." No,
you're not paying attention to me. Why aren't you paying attention
exactly,
to me?
exactly.
Hmm. I I like newspapers also, old
Oh, yeah,
newspapers. You have to
right.
go to like microfiche collections now,
Yes. Well,
which
you
can be
mentioned, didn't you
um
mention? Go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
well, one of the things I've noticed is a lot of the okay, come on, senior moment.
It's okay. Writing room.
A lot
Rose.
of a lot of the smaller newspapers were members of the United Press.
Yes.
And the interesting thing about that is you get stories from all over, even in small town newspapers. Um, do you do you use newspapers at all?
Well, there's a site I use called Newseum News.
Oh,
They have all the front pages in the world. You pick
okay.
America, you pick where you pick, and then you just sort of scroll until you find the right newspaper, and you read it.
Okay, hang on a minute because I'm going to write that down. You never know when
And
something
if
like
you
that.
give them an email, they'll let you subscribe. Sometimes they make you pay, sometimes they don't. But once you subscribe, you usually have access to their
Oh,
archive.
brother. I've recently found that I've nickled and dimed myself half to death on subscriptions.
Oh yeah. So I basically not. If you're not free, forget it. I'm still trying to cancel an office subscription. I've tried 3 times. I keep saying we cannot do that right now. You're taking my money. You can do this right now.
Yeah, of course they're doing it because they've got an access to your bank account. They're not
Right.
going to give it up.
No.
Well, but I think that's one of the things as authors in the modern age that we do face because you know, living in Manhattan, you're not far from the New York City Public Library, are you?
No, I've been to the main library. Yeah.
And to me, that's
Rose.
almost
Go ahead. That's almost what?
it's almost like Mecca
Almost. Yeah. Yeah.
because I can still remember, you know, what a when I was 6 or 7 or 8 and first learned there was something, you know, and really started to read, right?
Yeah.
And then you find out there's a library. And
Oh
they've
my
got
God.
all the books you could possibly imagine or want.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
No, if you've been to the Rose, if you ever come to Manhattan, let me know and I'll take you to the Rose Reading Room inside the main branch on 42nd Street with the two lions. And the Rose Reading Room, you can call ahead for your research like Wendy Jones did.
Hmm.
And I sat there with her. We sat there with her, and she was going to town. I was doing my thing, my name. Anyway, we were doing our thing, but she was running around like a happy child on Christmas morning because they gave
Yeah.
her everything she could possibly want.
No, that's awesome. But see, that's almost historical fiction in itself nowadays.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I had a friend who was with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Public Library, so
yes.
school system library, and she was always telling me stories about how difficult it was to get people interested in libraries because nowadays they just sort of, you know,
They can't get off the phone. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Or they walk into you. Sometimes I just walk down the street, heads up.
But see, I think that also introduces something important. Um, as historical fiction writers, it's sort of, I won't say it's a duty, but it's something we should keep in mind when we're talking about the way things were back in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, whatever. And all right, so you brought up jazz bands earlier, um, or you brought up that I brought it up. Who's your favorite jazz band from back
Well,
in the
I
day?
like Dizzy Gillespie. I like Glenn Miller is a little after the jazz band era, but he fed off of it. Dizzy Gillespie. I like Scott Joplin,
Okay, okay.
the composer. He is an author of music, makes him a composer. Uh, Duke Ellington. Uh, Sarah Vaughan is later. Thinking of her, Billie Holiday.
Yep, yep. Um, yeah, my wife likes her. Billie Holiday, Nina Simone.
Oh yeah, Nina Simone, of course.
Yeah.
Etta James.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I discovered big band when I was researching my books. And so
Okay.
here's something that I find when researching. A lot of times the rabbit holes that you go down
Oh,
are,
fascinating.
yeah. And I discovered just in you remember the little cassette tapes you used to could buy? Speaking of historical fiction, little cassette tapes, that could almost be historical fiction now. But I got one in a $2 bin of Fletcher Henderson.
Oh,
And I
okay.
had no idea who Fletcher Henderson was. And I looked at the dates on it. Oh, 1920, 1930, 31, 32. Okay, this sounds good.
Yeah, yeah. They wrote good music.
And
And
it's,
some of the things I hear. What is that? What am I listening to? Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay, great. Okay, great. I'm making coffee. You want a cup?
well, but things like that, artifacts from the time,
Yeah,
the, you know, what is it I hear plugged on the radio when I listen to the radio? The timeless music, and you're usually talking about the 60s and 70s, and
yeah.
timeless music goes back further than that.
Way back further. Yeah, no. And speaking of the younger generation, I was when I was teaching, it's a Monday morning. I'm in the break room, in the copy room, getting myself together. And the young man who was just hired as our new math teacher, now this is back in the 90s.
Hmm.
So he said, "What was the best thing about your weekend?" I said, "Well, I probably, it was a quiet weekend, so I probably watched the Cary Grant movie."
And he
He
said,
said,
"Who?"
"Oh, exactly." And I said, "I hope you're joking. How do you define Cary Grant to a young man who's obviously together? He never showed up as a schlub. He was always dressed, pants in the proper place, but he had no clue." So I said, I ask Clark Gable or Peter Henry Fonda?" Yeah. Once upon a time, you walked into a men's store in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, they'd tell you, you want to be David Niven, Clark Gable, or Fred Astaire, or Cary Grant, I should say.
Well,
And they
I
dress
love
you
those old
accordingly.
I love those old movies.
I do
And see,
too.
there's another good source because it not only tells you, what things look like,
Yeah.
uh, but it tells you what people were thinking about, the kinds of things that were important to them.
Hmm.
And again, that helps you inform the choices you make as an author. But you
Exactly.
mentioned you were a teacher. What did you teach?
Math and science and special needs. I'm a trained deaf and hard of. I'm a trained language teacher for the deaf and hard of hearing. I can
Oh,
teach you how to use your language, and I don't mean Spanish, French, Chinese, Japanese, Urdu, whatever language you care to
hmm.
say. No, I teach you the code we call language.
Really?
Yes.
Now, see, that's intriguing. I had pretensions of being a physicist when I was younger. So I majored in math and physics until I learned I had no talent for electronics.
Okay.
So it was math for me, but I never did much with it. I wanted to be a writer.
Well, math is the only code without exceptions.
I would define math. See, I think I generally agree. I would define math as nothing more than a set of formal rules for manipulating arbitrary symbols.
Correct. But those arbitrary, but that manipulation has
Yeah,
no exceptions.
yeah, it's that's a definition that probably leads you into more trouble than anything else.
Well, when I
Well, look,
try to explain that to non-language trained teachers who were just they had a PhD in whatever they had their PhD in, and they were like, "What?"
before we
They're
go down the rabbit hole of the relationship between math and language, which I think might be a really interesting conversation, let me ask you who your uh, do you like hard-boiled detective novels like
I've read them
Dashiell
all.
Hammett?
I've read Raymond Chandler. I've
Yeah,
read
yeah.
uh, Dashiell Hammett. I've read who wrote Perry Mason's
Mhm. Earl Stanley Gardner?
Earl Stanley Gardner. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, I like Agatha Christie, P.D.
Mhm.
I'm not a fan of P.D. James, but I like who wrote Lord Peter Wimsey. She went to Oxford, the
Mhm.
female version of Oxford, whatever her name is.
Oh, what did she write again?
Lord Peter Wimsey?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Um, but only because I saw the BBC series, a few episodes on that.
yeah, that lady.
Hmm.
But her books are fabulous. Ellis Peters, another Oxford. She taught at Oxford.
Hmm.
She taught English, but she had two series. She has two series. One of 60, sorry, a 10th century Benedictine monk
Hmm.
who solved mysteries, murder mysteries, and the other one was a
Oh.
present day Ellis Peters. Her name is Ellis Peters. That's her pen name. Her real name is Elizabeth Peters, but for her books she's wrote Elizabeth Ellis. And the other one was a modern day detective set in Wales. I
Hmm.
like the Benedictine monk better than I like the guy in Wales.
Oh, brother something.
Brother Cadfire,
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
played by Claudius. Yeah, that
Yeah.
guy. Derek
Well,
Jacobi.
we probably only got a few more minutes, Mary, so let me
Right.
ask you this. What have you got in progress for Nate Walker?
In progress, he's dealing with. First of all, I have to explain his life has expanded a little bit.
Hmm.
He has a Chinese medical doctor.
Hmm.
As the Chinese doctor was a Chinese medical doctor from Hong Kong, but when they moved to England, the family from England, because they're from Hong Kong, they moved to England. So he grew up in England, went to.
Hmm.
He's a Western doctor and a Chinese medical doctor. That's his medical doctor.
Hmm.
He also has a man who helps around the house, does the odd jobs besides the servants. An Italian immigrant he goes by the name of Roscoe. Roscoe, the latest book, Roscoe comes in with a problem. One of his cousini, his cousins, has been chopped to death on a boat that she was working on. See, senor, you need to help. You help. See, okay, so that's the one I'm writing.
Okay.
Yeah. And the last one, A Tangled Web, was just came out yesterday. I
Oh,
have to
congrats.
thank you. It's on Amazon. Where was I? Oh, so he's basically he's sort of involved as a side issue because in the first book there's a blackmailer. So in a tangled web, the blackmailer dies. He's murdered
Hmm.
because of the connection. They, so that's the tangled web. He's tenuously involved because the blackmailer's dead. The widow survives. The widow comes to him because the widow went to school with Nate Walker's sister. So there's a and the people. It's yeah. I will not give away more than that.
Okay, well, no spoilers.
No spoilers. No
That's
spoilers.
definitely a no-no for detective fiction.
Right. No spoilers.
Okay, so do you have any advice for people who want to start writing historical fiction?
Well, first, just write whatever. If you want, best advice I give is one: just write.
Yeah.
If you said it in the 20s, the 80s, the 2700s of the future, write your story. Because you got it's just put the words on paper. You don't have to show them to anybody. Just put the words on paper, let them flow. If they stop, fine. You got out 7 words. Yay! Go away. You want to be historical fiction? Well, I was on an Alaska cruise. True story. And we're leaving the cruise ship to get off at whatever stop we're at. And on the land, there was this Alaska. There was a big hill, and there was this little red house at the top of the hill. So I just, oh, nice place to set a mystery. Write that story. Something in the everyday life, just walking the street, just listening to a conversation. That's not yours. You're not eavesdropping. You're just like when you're walking past people, they're on their phone. But by the way, that contract didn't work, or blah blah blah. Did you get that special coffee you're looking for? Blah, whatever. If something like that triggers a thought to write, or triggers a thought like, what if? What are they talking about? What could they possibly be talking about? Answer your question. Answer that question. That'll get you started writing.
So curiosity
Please. I love
it
curiosity. My
is
favorite question is why?
or what if?
Well, what if?
Yeah, yeah. Now I like that bit about just wandering along and listening to snatches of conversation. I'll admit I do it myself. It's not eavesdropping if you're just sitting there and people are
So you're
talking.
just walking by New York or Manhattan, everybody's on their phone. You're either getting the contract or I spilled my coffee or the blouse cost me $37 at dry cleaners and whatever.
But see, that's a slice of life in and of itself. Just that
Exactly.
you're okay. I don't know if you can see this,
I
but
can see that. You have 9 minutes left.
yeah, okay. Well, good. Let's take a couple more minutes.
Okay.
Um, well, we got a helicopter coming over. He'll be gone in a second.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Nope, that's my next door neighbor mowing his lawn.
Okay, we can talk over the lawnmower.
Yeah, well,
I have a teacher's voice.
excellent. Um, gosh, we pretty much any questions any questions or observations you'd like to ask or make?
Well, the opposite. You asked about how to be a historical fiction writer.
Uh-huh.
One of the things I sometimes do if I'm watching an old movie, like there was a Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy movie about the California and the Cattleman's Hill. And Cattleman Hill was the most important oil find in the country in the 50s,
Mm-hmm.
30s, and the 40s, and 50s. Continue the story. The movie ends where they're standing on top of Cattleman Hill planning out their future business.
Mm-hmm.
So finish the story. If you want a more modern story, go for Pretty Woman. I just forgot her name. Julia Roberts and his name, Gene, yeah.
Yeah, Richard
And
Gere,
they
yeah.
run off to New York.
Mm-hmm.
Finish the story. What happens in New York? What happens on that plane ride? What happens on that plane ride?
See now, you got a little too much Hollywood in you there, Mary.
Well,
Sequelitis.
if you take a Nate Walk, there's a Rex Stout book where he meets his daughter, and it
Mm-hmm.
ends with his daughter is now living in his house.
Mm-hmm.
What happens with the daughter living in the house? Hello, there's a whole smattering of stories there.
Well, what I like about what I'm hearing is that the universe of stories is basically endless.
It is. It is. It is.
And all you need to do to tap into it is just keep asking yourself, well, why is this happening? And what if this happened?
Yes. Yes.
So basically, this is what any writer would do
Any
is,
writer would do this. And if you
yeah.
want historical, I picked historical fictions because I like rules.
Hmm.
I like when men were men and women were women, and there were rules, there were manners. Men held the door for women.
Well,
Uh,
and certainly that's one of the difficulties of modern society. We're all just sort of cast adrift,
yes,
and it
yes. So
doesn't
I like
actually,
rules.
yeah.
You knew. Oh, Sunday the stores will be closed.
Hmm.
Really? Okay. Then it
Okay.
was. Now it's like, okay, who knows? Everything's going. Like they give Chick-fil-A grief because they close on Sunday.
It's what they want to do.
They want to do close on Sunday. Let go. I mean, oh, this woman was so upset because her nephew wanted to celebrate at Chick-fil-A. Oh, horrible people. How can you pick that restaurant? I'm like, it's his graduation. He wants to go to Chick-fil-A. Shut up. Go to Chick-fil-A. I mean, seriously.
Well, okay. Well, look, why don't we go ahead and wind this up, Mary? Because if we keep going,
Okay, let's
A,
wind
we're
it
going to
up.
run out of time, and
Yes,
B,
we are.
I can see that you and I probably need to have some conversations outside of,
I think we do. I
yeah.
think we do. That would be great.
Okay.
We can talk track, we can talk movies, we can talk books, whatever you say, Tom.
Well, I can think of a couple of things where we might have profitable discussion. Okay. So this
So could
is
I.
Tom
All right.
Burkhalter and Mary Karpin. Mary Karpin is the author of the Nate Walker Detective Series. She has a new book that just came out on Amazon. Tell me the title again.
A tangled weave.
Excellent.
Sorry, a tangled web.
Okay. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. And Mary, I certainly enjoyed talking to you.
I enjoyed
And
talking to you, Tom.
okay, and for Books Go Social, signing off.
There we go.